A Step to the Left by The Distortion. Chapter 2. Michael woke slowly, drifting vaguely into consciousness. The first thing he was truly aware of was the fact that he was lying on a couch. The rough, familiar fabric dug into his face. With a groan he pushed himself up, glancing around the room. There was nothing strange about his current situation. He had been sleeping on the couch in his father's house for a while. Or at least, Michael thought for a minute, confusion flitting across his mind. He used to. Something is wrong, he finally thought. His surroundings were brought into sharp clarity for the first time since waking up. I shouldn't be here. Now that the thought had occurred to him, time clicked into place. He hadn't slept in his father's house for years. The place freaked him out. Some part of him was always worried that his father would come crawling back in through the door. I should be dead. This third thought hit him square in the chest, knocking the breath from his lungs, his healthy, smokeless lungs. He jumped out of his seat, glancing around the room like his father would actually come limping from one of the doorways. It was the only explanation that made sense. If he was here, his father had brought him. No one else wanted to be near this wretched place. The shelves and photos were all covered in a thick layer of dust, which calmed Michael's nerves. No one lived here, at least not recently, and the dust on the ground was equally undisturbed. But then, how had he gotten here? He began to push back through his memories. It was slow, like wading through high water, and he remembered that someone had been talking to him. Someone had been talking to Charlie. He remembered smoke, and fire, and screaming, and Henry. If Michael was alive by some sort of miracle, surely Henry was too, right? Michael looked down at his hands, searching for some sign of injury and scarring, but there was nothing, not even that faint purple hue that they had had for years. His hands weren't pristine by any means, they never had been, but they were much better than before. Michael ran to the nearest bathroom, wiping off the mirror with his sleeve and staring in shock at his face. He was younger, and there were no scars there to mar his image. There were no jagged lines across his cheeks. He lifted up his shirt, and still, to his horror, there were no scars. He almost looked like his father. Michael stumbled back against the wall, and his hands came up to cover his mouth. He didn't know what to do with the person in the mirror. That wasn't him. It couldn't be. He was too young, too healthy, and too wrong. He had dealt with William, ghosts, and robots of all kinds, but this was too much to face on his own. He needed to find Henry. He nearly tripped in his haste to get out of the bathroom, away from the mirror, running to where his car keys usually sat. He always put them there without fail. They were nowhere to be seen. Michael peered out the window as the pit in his gut grew deeper. Just as he expected, there was nothing in the driveway, no sign of his car. He had to come up with another plan. He needed some way to get to Uncle Henry's house in Hurricane. There had to be a way. He just needed to calm down and think for 2 seconds. His father's old bike. It had to be here somewhere. William had gotten it purely for show, of course, to prove to others that he was a wonderful and well-involved parent to his children. At least that meant he had kept it well-maintained, ready to show it off to the parents at Freddy's and talk about how wonderful it was to share an experience like long rides through the town with his children. Michael went out to the shed, stopping momentarily at the doors. He tried to remember if he had ever been in here. Would the evidence of William's misdeeds be present, or did he keep that somewhere else? Michael took a deep breath in, holding it for a moment and letting it out as he yanked the door open. The place was mostly barren, thankfully. Michael had expected to at least see some tools, but those probably remained in the workshop. Peering around for a moment, he pulled the bike out of the corner. The tires were partially flat, but it would have to do. He wobbled dangerously as he mounted the bike. So much for always remembering how to ride a bike. He didn't imagine the saying applied to people who had been robots for the past 30 years. It was a relief once he finally got going, the speed helping him maintain his balance. It only felt like a moment before he was pulling up to Henry's house, but the chill that ran across his face said otherwise. The car in the driveway gave him some hope. Someone was home, at least. Henry had lived by himself for the years after the death of Charlie. He felt weak as he approached the door, giving the house a critical look. It was old and worn, with the paint peeling off the exterior. Michael knocked, and he heard a loud thud upstairs, followed by the creaking sound of the stairs he remembered so well. He smiled, imagining Henry climbing down those now, just as confused as he was. His smile faded when the door finally opened, and he was face to face with the girl. She seemed to be only a few years younger than he was. He started when she didn't say anything. "I'm sorry, is this the Emily residence?" The girl looked surprised, taking a step back from him and closing the door slightly. "Who's asking?" "Michael," he responded quickly, settling on an identity. "Michael Schmidt. I came to see Henry if he's home." The girl looked like he just slapped her, and her face darkened. That was apparently the wrong thing to say. "Well, Michael," she spat out, "I'm afraid you're about 10 years too late for that. Her voice faltered. "He's dead." Michael felt his world shift to the side. This wasn't a part of his plan. He needed Henry. How could he be gone? How could it have possibly been 10 years? He steadied himself against the wall nearest to him. His breath seemed to quicken, coming in short gasps. Where was he? When was he? What? He was at a loss for words. What do you even say in a situation like this? "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This was a mistake." His legs fell out from beneath him, and he clutched at his head. He sat like that for a while, with his hands pulling at his hair and clutching at his throat. When he finally looked back up, the door was shut and the girl was gone, along with her car. Hey, we're back to the endnotes. I'm not sure if I'm going to have endnotes for every chapter, because I've seen some podfics do endnotes and sometimes they don't, so we'll just see how it ends up. I wasn't sure whether to have soundtrack in this chapter like I did the first one, but the first chapter gave me more prologue vibes, and in the game during the speech there is actually that music playing, so it felt more fitting, and I did try music for this chapter, but I felt like it took away from the reading, so I just kind of cut it out. If there is demand though, I will rethink that decision. One thing I found out during this experience is that choosing voices for characters is tricky. I mean, Michael does have official voice lines that I could try to imitate, but it sounds way too suave for the awkward and not fully put together vibes he gives. I'm not even gonna try a British accent. I already have trouble comprehending and understanding what accent is which, and I don't want to butcher that. For Charlie's voice, I did look for reference at the Silver Eyes and how the official audiobook narrated her. I don't think I nailed either of the voices, but they're doable, so. Anyway, things are getting exciting. Our protagonist has met Charlie, and he's gotten a nudge, or rather a shove, that everything is not the same as before. I hope you enjoyed this chapter, and I'll see you soon for chapter 3.